Thank you for joining us this morning as we have a joint press conference between His Excellency the Governor, Augustus Jaspert, and the Premier of the Virgin Islands, Dr. the Honorable D. Orlando Smith. Our topic today is security. We'll now hear a brief statement from the Governor.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon everyone, and thank you for coming today. The Premier and I called us together to talk briefly with you all about security. And when I first arrived in these islands, I was struck by the sheer natural beauty, the engaging people, and the peace and tranquility that have given these islands the name of nature's little secrets. While the Virgin Islands are of course well known in business, international finance and tourism across the world, what struck me also were the stories of how safe people felt, and how important that is. A sense of calm and safety to walk in the early mornings or the late evenings, have family outings, and some who even sleep with windows and doors ajar to take in natural breezes. As Governor, an absolute priority will always be to work along with the Premier and Cabinet to ensure the safety and tranquility of these islands remain. The safety and security of citizens is the first responsibility of any government, and is the building block for a vibrant economy, a flourishing society, a safe place for children to grow and develop, and now is vital for our recovery. It is with this foundation I come to you this afternoon to reiterate my commitment to the safety of these islands. It is also the reason why the Premier and I are here this afternoon to support a security plan. While these islands are still relatively safe, we must do everything possible as a community to eradicate any criminal activity that jeopardises the security of these islands. Following Hurricanes Irma and Maria, the territory was severely challenged in ensuring public safety and security. A small and despicable part of society took advantage of the challenges to commit crime, in particular looting, as we know. In the face of such challenges across law enforcement agencies, I was pleased with and grateful for the assistance of the United Kingdom. The UK provided military support and funding for officers from the UK, Cayman and Bermuda, which together with fine local law enforcement agencies, and in particular the brave and dedicated RVIPF officers, helped to restore order to these islands. The challenges, though, are not all behind us. In recent weeks, we have witnessed horrific shootings. Our law enforcement agencies are also having to rebuild their capabilities, as with most other public services. And I'm conscious of the concern that must be felt by many living in houses or working in businesses damaged by the storms without secure windows, doors, or full lighting. With the recent spate of crimes comes a response and a message that restoring any safety lost in our community is an urgent and serious priority. Last Tuesday, the law enforcement arms and personnel of this territory, that's the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, Immigration, Customs, Her Majesty's Prison, BVI Ports Authority and BVI Airports Authority, met to discuss both the short and long-term interventions and actions needed to address the security of these islands. The action planning of these fine agencies focused on 4 areas of immediate priority. First, aggressively securing the integrity of the territory's borders against illicit entry of guns, people and narcotics. Second, strategically increasing the presence, visibility and connectivity between all law enforcement agencies. Third, tactically reducing key criminal activities within the territory. And fourth, developing a cross-sector robust crime prevention and reduction plan between all law enforcement agencies. The plan is already in progress. With the assistance of funding from the United Kingdom, we've already increased the number of RVIPF firearms officers and introduced armed response vehicles. Extra homicide detectives are already in the territory working on cases. We are repairing the infrastructure and equipment of the RVIPF, and with the Ministry of Education, we are repairing Her Majesty's Prison. We are increasing the number of search dogs, and we are putting in place drone surveillance capability. Any fight on crime requires a fully functional judiciary. Following my press statement last week on the opening, or a few weeks ago on the opening of the court, I'd like to further note that the Court of Appeal commenced on the Monday the 26th of February and will sit until Friday. Equally, High Court civil matters continued. The Criminal High Court also commenced with the hearing of a few matters, and full case management will begin soon. Magistrates, civil, traffic and quasi matters commenced as planned. However, due to an unfortunate and unforeseen delay in construction at the House of Assembly building, Magistrates Court Criminal did not commence as scheduled, but I've been informed it is now projected to commence on the 6th of March at the House of Assembly building. It's obviously subject to sittings of the House of Assembly that are scheduled, and I'm very grateful for the cooperation of the House of Assembly. We will continue to do everything possible to ensure that the judiciary is fully functional as it serves as the foundation for a lawful society. Further, I'm very pleased that the Premier and Cabinet have agreed to allocate extra funding of up to $5 million to deliver on our security plan. Law enforcement agencies are taking forward plans to increase scanners and searches at ports of entry to stop guns and drugs. They're increasing customs and police marine capability. They're increasing the number of CCTV, that's surveillance cameras, are procuring the latest digital radios to ensure all agencies can talk to each other more effectively. They are rolling out tasers for RVIPF officers on patrol, and across all agencies are planning joint operations. Whilst for obvious reasons the specific tactics and operations cannot be exposed, the community needs to know that security in these islands is a priority that I and the Premier share. Criminals that have taken advantage of any weaknesses in security after Hurricanes Irma and Maria should know that this behaviour has no place in this fantastic territory, and it must stop now. These islands are too special and beautiful to allow a few bad and reckless criminals who are acting lawlessly to erode the tranquility of which we are well known. To end, just two final points. Firstly, I'm hugely grateful for the dedication, bravery and commitment of all who work in our law enforcement agencies to keep us safe every day. We cannot thank them enough. But secondly, I want to end with an important message. The security and safety of the territory is not just a job for the Premier, Cabinet, myself, or for law enforcement agencies. It is everybody's responsibility in every community to play their part. Safety is all of our responsibility. Thank you very much. I now invite the Honourable Premier to speak, and would like to publicly also say thank you to the Premier and Cabinet for their support and leadership in the matter of national security. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, members of the press. The first responsibility of any government is to protect its citizens and provide a safe place for children, families, and residents to live, work, and to visit. BVI has always been considered a safe place. Hence, we're able to develop an economy based on tourism and financial services because our visitors feel that once they come to BVI, they'll be safe. However, since Hurricane Irma, there's been a dramatic change, unprecedented, and something that was unlike what happened previously in the British Virgin Islands, where there was some very significant looting, and subsequent to that, there's been an increased level of activity which are not representative again of what we in BVI say the BVI is all about. So, since national security now, that is even more important. As a major breakdown in the law and order could very well have a significant impact on our tourism sector, business investment, and ultimately the economy of the territory. To this end, my government is pleased to support the need for improved security and have given up to and have made available up to $5 million to aid in strengthening law enforcement agencies responsible for security in the Virgin Islands. The key agencies that will benefit will include Immigration and Customs, Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, Ministry of Education and Culture, that's through Her Majesty's Prison, BVI Ports Authority. This support is very important as it ensures the integrity of the territory's borders, improves internal capacity of law enforcement agencies, and develops and coordinates a cross-sector crime reduction plan among all law enforcement agencies. To this end, our law enforcement agencies have made a commitment to work together to solve immediate and long-term law enforcement matters. And in that regard, this up to $5 million will be used to support equipment, such as firearms, such as boats, such as CCTV cameras, which will assist both the police, customs, and immigration in their work. Before I conclude, I wish to take this time to thank our key security sectors for the roles they have played following Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and the roles they continue to play to keep us safe during these times. They put their lives on the line every day to ensure safety. It is only right that we take the necessary steps to make their work more effective. That is why it's my government's focus to support the law enforcement agencies and intelligence services by doing everything possible to help them to keep our residents and visitors alike safe. We will continue to support them in their effort to become more efficient in crime prevention and detection. We'll continue to ensure that they are always given the requisite resources to fight crime of any kind. And finally, I'd like to say that we all have a part to play, everybody in this territory, the governor, my government, businesses, the entire community. We all must take responsibility for our own security and prosperity. I recognize we are stronger when we are sharing the burden of collective leadership with trusted partners and friends. Thank you.
I thank our Premier and the Governor for their statements. We're now open their floor for questions. Please note the topic for today is security and safety, so we're asking all questions to stay on topic, to stay on focus. Please say your name and the media house you represent.
Governor, Premier, thank you for being here today. Connor Devitt, BVI Beacon. Governor, I just was curious if you received the results of the independent investigation into the death of the escaped inmate.
So as you're aware, there's an independent investigation, which is standard practice, being led by Turks and Caicos Islands officers. The latest I've had that investigation is done their investigation here. They are essentially writing it up in TCI. I expect to get it soon, but I haven't yet received it.
Do you plan to release the results of that investigation?
So my general principle is not to be transparent on everything. Obviously, there are things in there that are sensitive or of a nature that could affect security. I'll have to look at that, but I'd like to make sure that we are as transparent as possible as we can be.
Good afternoon, Zando, Mr. WVI Radio. Governor, despite the fact that $5 million has been allocated to go towards security, more homicide detectives are coming in to do the work to strengthen the security aspect. The officers cannot carry out their duties unless they are comfortable. You agree? They must do that unless they're comfortable. The Premier said some time ago he's satisfied with the pace in which the whole work has been done to make sure the officers are comfortable. The Commissioner said it's slow progress, right? What is being done, right, to speed up the process, to make sure that the officers are comfortable in the surroundings in which they're working? Because they cannot do what you're asking them to do with this new plan unless they're comfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think actually the Premier put it very well when he reflected on what the law enforcement agencies do to keep us safe, and our duty is to help them do their jobs as well. So I know that there are already, and I visited last Friday, I think it was, at Rotown Police Station. The repairs are underway. Similarly, in West End Police Station, start either this week or next week. The contractors there. But it's also about comfortable in terms of officers who are both men and women will put their lives on the line to protect us, and also in the other agencies, whether that's customs or others, that we need to give them the latest equipment, latest technology, and the support. And what the Premier's agreed to in terms of a plan and funding for that plan enables that. It gives the latest radio technology, it gives camera technology, it gives them the equipment that they need to keep safe. So I feel confident we've got a plan in place, and absolute priority for all of us is supporting our law enforcement, the brave men and women who do what they do every day, because they're the ones who help keep us safe.
Mr. Governor, good afternoon. You mentioned in your address just now drone surveillance. How soon could we expect this to be rolled out? And if you could say anything more about it, what's the cost, how many drones, how it will work in the general sense?
Yes, well, the best person to talk about the details of any sort of tactical operations or things that are happening in terms of police capabilities of obviously the police commissioner. I spoke to him earlier in the week exactly on this issue, and he told me that they hope within a few months to have the drone surveillance available that be used to support operations. It just helps to give the visibility around it, but it's probably for the commissioner to sort of talk about exactly how he'll use that capability.
And do you know how many drones do you plan to purchase, will be purchased, or as well as what will it cost?
So the drone funding comes from the initial part of UK funding that was given. There was £1.2 million, about what's the exchange rate? About $1.6 million. It goes up and down, but came through, and that was part of a package of immediate support. But as the Premier said, that's one part of a much bigger plan, which is about the territory itself, supporting the rebuild of its security infrastructure, not just on. Drone surveillance is one part, but actually our maritime surveillance, the supporting the customs and the police in their planning joint operations, as the Premier said, to get better maritime surveillance, getting camera surveillance in key places. CCTV got damaged quite a bit during the storm, making sure that we get that back up. Also including in other areas that you wouldn't necessarily think of as, strictly speaking, security, but I know Honourable Minister Vanterpool is working very hard to get streetlights back up as something that also help in terms of visibility and for officers who are out on patrol, knowing that they can see as well. So it's part of a whole overall package about supporting security.
And Mr. Premier, I'm sorry, colleagues, you mentioned the government will be giving up to $5 million to help in the effort. Where's this money coming from? And is there going to be an increase in the amount of CCTV cameras that will be re-erected, for want of a better term, across the territory?
The monies, of course, will be coming from the resources of government, the consolidated fund, and it will be provided up to $5 million. When I say up to $5 million, there will be a plan which would detail what will be provided in terms of CCTV cameras, in terms of boats for the customs and the police, and that will determine the exact figure that will be provided. The CCTV cameras, there were some installed some a few years ago, and they were quite effective in assisting with the solving of many criminal activities. And so we see this as something that's important to get reinstated. Matter of fact, the cameras that were there, while they were very effective, we intended to increase the numbers of cameras, because the more we had properly distributed, the better we'll be able to see what's going on and be able to apprehend any criminals involved in any nefarious activity. So I cannot at this moment say exactly how many will be purchased, as the governor mentioned, but that will be determined by the commissioner and his allies as they make a survey of the needs and then put it by a plan in action.
Governor Jaspert, you mentioned extra homicide persons joining the force. Can you give in context how you were referring to them joining, how many officers did you have in mind, and why I say context? In the past, there were persons who came to the territory. I think I recall them being former officers of the UK force to assist with some of the unsolved murders. I know we had some incidents recently, so that is why I asked in what context you were having these additional homicide detectives coming to join the force. If you can also let us know how long their stint is expected to be. Are they going to be permanently based in the force, or are they on loan to us, so to speak?
Yeah. So every single homicide, the tragedy is obviously the victim and the family that are left behind. In terms of how it affects policing, the Commissioner will be able to talk more about that, but every homicide is a huge amount of work to investigate, to deal with, and pulls resources from other areas of the police force as well. RBIPF, I last year, there was, as the Commissioner set out, there were 10 homicides. They are investigating every single one of those. I know that about half of them, I think 9 people have been arrested for 5 of those homicides, which obviously would be inappropriate to comment on the individual cases. The assistance that's coming from the United Kingdom is essentially to bolster the RBRBF team. It's not UK coming in to do the investigations, or doing it all separately. They are officers who are experienced, what we call CID, the crime investigation detectives, who are coming in to help RBRBF officers deal with these cases, because each murder takes a lot of resource in terms of officer time and investigative capability to do. They're here at the moment. They were here before as well. It's a different set, as I understand, in terms of people. They're also helping to train up local officers as well, and they're here for a short while. It's a small number of them. I don't want to get the Commissioner to set out details of each of them, but they're here to support primarily the RBIPF, both deal with these cases and then build capability for the long term.
So just to follow up on that, Governor, so they're mainly dealing with recent incidents, or are they going to assist with some of the unsolved matters? Both as I understand, but as I said, it's for the Commissioner to set out where they're making progress on some of those sort of older cases, if that makes sense.
Kathy Richards, JTV News. It seems as though my colleague and I were on the same train of thought, but just to follow up on what she has, as it relates to the armed officers that you referred to that has been brought in, could you say where and in what numbers are they in the territory?
So
where from?
Yes, so they haven't been brought in. As you'll recall, previously there were, after the storms, we had a very large number of both UK military Marines. These were the soldiers who were on the streets that people would have seen. And then we had, I'm very grateful for Cayman Islands and Bermuda, as well as the UK, who sent over a large number of officers who were deployed. All of them in support of the RBRBF. There was no separate. They were all under the Police Commissioner's chain of command and under his direction. They aren't here now. We have some homicide detectives, are the sort of the behind-the-scenes officers, and also there's been some support for firearms training from the UK. But those officers who are firearms trained are RBRBF officers, so they're local officers who have now been trained as firearms officers. There's a new firearms simulator equipment has been bought by the UK to support the RBRBF. So it's about training the local officers more, rather than about bringing in external officers.
Okay, I've had the first experience in my life in the British Virgin Islands to be stopped and searched at night by heavily armed police officers in the street. Have you been getting feedback from the community and also from the police force as to how the residents of the territory are responding to this?
Well, you're probably better than me to give the feedback from the community. I know that this is something Commissioner and I often discuss. It's up to him in terms of police tactics, but I know something he cares deeply about, as do I, and I know the Premier, is how the public are engaged in policing and security overall as well. So I hope that is a debate that is ongoing. And
okay, one quick follow-up also on the previous question the Premier responded to. With the allocation of additional monies to get certain things in place, how soon are we to see these being effective?
So some of the things I said are already happening, increasing the firearms, for example, and the joint operations and the works are happening now, are underway already. Other things will take a bit of time to procure, but they're already in train. So these things I would hope over the next few months, and our expectation is that the things that we won't go into every bit of detail because we don't want to give any advantages to criminals, but things are already in place. More will come in place over the next few months as well.
Governor, you would have heard the Commissioner more than one occasion speaking about the difficulties he has in solving crimes, the people speaking. This plan that you now putting in place, how are you going to overcome that? What you have in mind to overcome what the Commissioner is facing, to get people to speak? And secondly, Premier, with all measures you put in place, what are the plans you put in place to deal with security you must have the perfect legislation to go with it. Government has plans in terms of strengthening legislation to go along with the security plan, particularly probably strengthening gun laws or probably in terms of persons convicted. Your government has any plans in terms of strengthening legislation to deal with culprits when they're caught?
Well, I'll let the Premier answer the question about legislation, if that's as it's his government on that. But just very briefly on what the Commissioner has said about people coming forward and supporting the police, and both the Premier and I said, and I know we both 100% support the Commissioner on that. People have a choice. The security of this fantastic place is not just down to law enforcement agencies, it's down to every single person. They have a choice where they want to live or how they live, and what kind of community they want. If it's a community that hides criminals or doesn't come forward on criminals, personally, that's not a community that is a choice that is a very attractive one. There are things that we are doing to support law enforcement agencies, but equally the community need to come forward. Now, I know this is a small community, and I know that can be a concern to people coming forward. I speak regularly to the Police Commissioner about how witnesses are protected and the support that's given to them, but also there's many other avenues, whether that's through going to church or school or other places where people can pass messages. But it's a collective responsibility, and it's something I 100% support the Commissioner's the statements that he's made previously.
So there's nothing in the plan in terms of probably trying to convince persons. There's nothing you could probably come up with instead of speaking to the police or speaking to a person. Is there anything you plan to come up with to help convince persons, put something in place will probably give them initiative? I need to speak because something forthcoming.
Yes, well, I think it's the fourth point, which Premier and I talked about in the 4-point plan, is actually about crime prevention and crime reduction. So it's not just about dealing with the crimes after they've happened. Actually, how do we support particularly young people to sort of grow up with a sense of responsibility? I know there's some fantastic organisations like whether it's Mail or YEP who are doing great work, building the right choices and supporting young people make the right choices, and that's something that is part of the plan. It's, as the Premier said, it's across every single part of society, every agency, Ministry of Education and Culture, for example, have a critical role to play as well. So I think you'll see things coming forward on that as well.
Yeah.
The legislation, the only still strengthening legislation?
Yes, we have in the past reviewed legislation, and we continue to do so. And there have been some suggestions about when to increase legislation. For example, during incidents such as the catastrophe we suffered, and there is a suggestion of having legislation which could be more severe for a period of time, right? And this we are looking at. There's also legislation which has to speak about sentencing on a regular basis, and curfews. There are various things that which we're looking at. They're not haven't been to the House of Assemblies yet. These are still in the conception stage, and they'll be going to cabinet shortly.
Mr.
But he also, he also wanted to say it's also about immigration laws as well, because they are also important when it comes to screening who comes into the country, because that's a preventive measure as well to prevent criminal activity.
Several weeks back, the Commissioner of Police, he suggested implementing, as far as the ports are concerned, that is, he suggested implementing a fingerprinting system, persons entering the territory. I'd love to get your view on what you think of that suggestion, and is it something government is willing, like truly willing to consider and even implement?
As I was just saying to the other, we are looking at various ways to help to prevent the increase of crime or reduce the incidence of crime in the BVI. And one of those ways, among those, is looking at the own immigration, matters of immigration, so we could more properly screen persons who come into the territory. Fingerprinting could be part of that screening process.
Premier Smith, in the past you've stressed your government's zero tolerance on crime, particularly as it relates to gun crimes. And
Correct.
following that statement, an amnesty where persons were asked to bring in their illegal weapons, that came out and it was very successful. In consideration of some of the recent incidents, are you going to make such a statement and call for persons who may have illegal weapons to take them in? Or do you think it's necessary at this time?
We've actually done so. And we'll continue to make that call because it's important. I know that persons feel when there's criminal activity going on that they must protect themselves. But protecting yourself by having illegal weapons is not the answer. The answer is to cooperate more with the law enforcement agencies. And this is why the commissioner is stressing the importance of community policing, where the police will get to know the persons in the community, and therefore once that happens, there'll be a better relationship and hopefully there'll be more cooperation when it comes to reporting matters, criminal activities to the police.
I have one more question, but my colleague would like to follow up, so I'll just yield to her.
As it relates to the recent spate of gun crimes that we've been having, one of the modes that has been identified is the use of scooters, and there has been this loud call by the community for some measures to be put to deal with scooters as it relates to the crime. Is this a consideration, and if yes, in what way do you think this mode can be put some grips on?
I understand the concern with scooters because it's even before the criminal activity, the scooters, there's a lot of noise and disturbance and everything. And while it is important that people be able to use the mode of transportation which they have, and also to go into work and for recreation, etc., it's also important that they also observe the needs of other people who live in various communities. One of the challenges we've had with the scooters is persons wearing helmets, not wearing helmets, scooters and motorcycles. And this is something which we are looking at again. And the fines that are being levied in cases where the noise is sort of very small, and some we are looking at to see, because it is important for the safety of the same young people who are riding the scooters that they continue to wear the helmets, right? From a point of view of the activities which are, of course, not illegal or criminal, then we are looking at other methods. For example, a curfew is being suggested so that we have to order at a certain time. But that, of course, has to be balanced with the need to get home and get to work, etc. So these are things which are being looked at and considered. And we will come up with a plan that will be able to hopefully reduce the use of these types of vehicles for criminal activities.
Governor Jaspert, you share responsibility for Her Majesty's prison. And I know it was mentioned that the repairs are ongoing, but there was a timeline given by which the prisoners who were in St. Lucia were to return, and that is approaching. Can you give us an update on how close you are to having the prisoners return? If not, is there a contingency plan just in case you don't have the facility prepared in time? And also, it would be great, and maybe you can also assist, since the second responsibility for the prison falls under the Minister of Education, who isn't here. How are they doing? It's been a while since we've had an update on how they're doing there in St. Lucia. So if you can also just
what I suggest, partly because of time, we probably can give a fuller update on the prison at some point, and I'm sure the Minister, Mr. Warwick, would want to be part of that as well. But just very briefly, ahead of that, there has been obviously repairs underway at the prison. I know some of that has been, in fact, you talked about shared responsibility. That has been funded partly by the Ministry of Education and Culture and partly by a grant from the United Kingdom as well. Those repairs have been completed on some of the areas, and other parts are still underway. Part of it was about fencing, some of it was about the roofs. The intention is to get the prisoners back as soon as possible, but we won't bring them back to somewhere that isn't a safe place for either them to be in, or the staff, or the community at large. So we're keeping it under regular review. It's something that the National Security Council are discussing soon in terms of the overall progress of the prison, but also how the prisoners are doing in St. Lucia and what are the timescales for getting them back. So I think probably after that point we'll be able to talk more.
Claire, thank you all for joining us. I'll just allow the Premier to give us any final thoughts as we wrap up today's press conference.
What I would like to say is that, as I said, ending my statement, it's important that the fight against criminal activity in the country involves everybody in the community. And so I'm glad that you are here and we're having this meeting with you because I recognize the importance of the press in assisting with this whole anti-corruption, anti-crime activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Governor, your final thoughts?
Well, I agree 100%. But yes, I mean, it's an important point. The press have a role as well to play in supporting this. But I think the important message is there are already improvements underway across all law enforcement agencies. Premier and Cabinet have agreed further funding to support more improvements. But as we've said, these are things that we want the community to support as law enforcement agencies do all they can. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.